Hey guys, what's up? It's Schlaw coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schlaw. And today, oh my gosh, it's always, now we're fine. Anyways, today, it is what it is. The usual, I don't even know, what am I getting at, man? The usual. I really did not have much on my mind today. I have been rather peaceful, and I attribute that to salt, the miracle drug, of course. I have been sodium deficient for quite a long time, and it has really been a wonderful journey realizing that and figuring it out and all that and getting to where I am now. It's been a great thing and a great journey. And I had a lot of salty water today. Lots and lots of salty water. Work's been a bit busy, so I think that always makes time go by. It was a little bit too slow for a while, honestly. I mean, it was easy, but it gets a little bit boring, and so there was some kind of pressure today to actually do stuff in a timely manner, which makes things go by better. Of course, I'm having more thoughts about my phone and getting my Cosmic Orange 17 Pro Max, but what else is new there, right? I mean, is that really a surprise to hear? So yeah, I don't know what else is there to report, really. What else is new? Wanting a phone, thinking about spending money. But I am really trying to have more of a relaxed take on like life, truly. That is truly where I'm at. Trying to just not be so uptight about things. It's not like I have nothing. I have more than a lot of people do. And I just think that, I should just chill a little bit more. Hopefully, I will end up with a second job someday. That's still like a goal for a period of time. I want to work 2 jobs. It would make me feel better about myself. But for the time being, I don't know. I don't know. So I don't really have anything to talk about. I mean, I guess the main concept, and this may have been thought to myself after this morning's episode. I'm not entirely sure. But, with a lot of these things, I have 2 conflicting principles, I suppose, where one side of me is OCD about having the best experience possible. So if there's a very clear and direct way for me to do so, I want to do it. In the case of the iPhone, it's very obvious. It's super obvious because it's like, obviously it's better. This iteration specifically has some pretty compelling upgrades. And so it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's expensive, but it's not that expensive, and it improves my experience in life. It gives me more pleasure. It's chasing the pinnacle of humanity. And that's pretty relevant, obviously, to me. And the Samsung Odyssey Arc was a similar thing. It was knowing that with that monitor, I was experiencing near the pinnacle of what can be experienced. That's why I wanted it. Because there's an OCD about, you know, I'm alive, doing what I can with the money that I have. Can't afford a home, can't afford rent, can't afford to move out, but at least I can experience a greater level of pleasure, of engagement than any other human ever did historically, which is why I'm prioritizing technology. Now, this isn't sensible, but it's always how I've thought. Because I just see that as the only thing that makes sense. Like, yeah, things are kind of trash now. The economy's decaying, people are decaying. But a lot of people blow and waste their money on stupider things. They blow and they waste their money on food, specifically junk food, which is not achieving the pinnacle human experience, because I think my food tastes great. And so, you know, I don't have any like qualms, or like I don't feel like my food situation could be better or anything like that. You know, I don't have any qualms or thoughts like that or anything. So it's like, you know. Sorry, people are just ticking me off a little bit because they're not doing things properly and they don't really care. Lots of older people too. It's very, very silly. Anyways, I shouldn't care, and hopefully next week or the week after, I won't have to deal with this anymore. Wouldn't that be a treat? If I get the schedule that I would like. Anyways. Yeah, so there's always been that back and forth with me, and that's kind of how I feel. Like, I think investing in the best technology possible, it just makes the most sense. It's just the most sensible thing to do, because I won't have a normal life. Normal life is over. I'm not going to be able to afford a house. I'm not going to be able to afford rent. But at least in the present, I think it makes sense to spend as much as possible on technology, because at least I'm experiencing something that is noteworthy. It's a noteworthy experience. And I guess that's been my governing philosophy, and it's not fully rational. It has its flaws. You know, of course it does. And it is what it is, though. I think it is what it is. I don't think it's a horrible philosophy. I think it's just about the most sensible thing. Cars, you could argue, I could apply the same philosophy to a car, except I don't really see how that's exactly the same thing. I mean, cars are sort of a source of dopamine, and yes, like, I do want the most luxurious experience possible or whatever, etc. But I don't think the cost becomes remotely efficient at all. And I guess you could argue with technology, it's a similar story. At this point, it probably isn't cost efficient anymore. And we talked about that. How, with the 16 Pro Max and especially the 17 Pro Max, there's probably not really going to be a genuine reason for me to continue to upgrade my computer with the Intel Core 9 285K. Unless, cores change or something. Like, I know the next Intel will have a huge amount of cores. So really the next Intel will be a lot more future-proof. But seriously, I mean, we're at that point where it's not going to make a lot of sense for me. Unless there are specific, interesting AI improvements or like advanced things that offer a more responsive experience. There's just not really a reason to be forking out money into technology anymore. I kind of already did it. I will say though, the Odyssey Arc is not perfect, and an OLED monitor is definitely something that I've honestly been thinking about more recently, but that is going to take a lot of thought because I actually don't like investing in monitors. I never have. I'm not really sure why. I would always rather put it into a better computer, put the money into a better computer because I care so much about computers, first and foremost. So a monitor is not really important. Now, that being said, maybe I wouldn't have to spend as absurd of an amount because I don't need a 4K OLED monitor. Although they might just make a lot of OLEDs 4K at this point, like if I had to imagine. But yeah, it's like the Arc doesn't look... I mean, I don't want to say that. It looks great. It probably is better looking than what most people have. But it's still not OLED. It's still not, like, if you look at the MacBook Pro display, because that's just my reference for, like, a expensive display that's good, or whatever, how else do you want to describe it? That display, like, just looks almost flawless, and, I don't know. There's just... Is it even an OLED? I thought it was, like... I don't know if the MacBook Pro... I'm not going to claim that. I thought it was OLED, but I'm thinking about it, and maybe the newer ones they switched to mini LED, but maybe it is. I'm confused. I actually don't have the answer to that question. So the Odyssey Arc is nice. It has its purpose, of course. I regret it, but I don't regret it. And I still think my ultimate setup, like, I would want a second one. Although, I don't personally see how that's going to be happening anytime soon. As sad as that is, I just don't really feel comfortable doing that. Maybe I will change my mind. But, yeah, sadly, I'm not really looking for a second Arc. Even though I'd probably like one. I'd probably still think that's the ultimate setup is 2 Odyssey Arcs. I'm thinking, though, more and more about a OLED monitor that is truly kind of like a peak experience, because I know that's possible. Like, the screen tech now, the OLED panels, I think they're perfect. So I have a Switch OLED, and even that screen just looks amazing. It just looks amazing. So I know the technology's there. Like even oh my gosh, I just think display technology is like really at like a peak. It really seems that way. Even my 16 Pro Max, like it just seems very good. It seems like it could be as good as it's really possible, because obviously you're going to get to a point where they can make the screens so good that the human eye can't distinguish the difference anymore. Eventually that's going to happen. And so it's interesting, you know. Eventually it's probably going to come down to cost cutting, perhaps trying to get a more affordable screen technology. Maybe something's cheaper than OLED, of course, more efficient screen technologies, but we're really, we're really close to where it's like, these screens look perfect. I don't know. I honestly think we're already there. I'm like a little bit hesitant to say it, but it's just so good. The 16 Pro Max is such a good screen, and the 17 Pro Max is going to be even better. It's just going to be better. You know, it's just going to be better. And so I don't know. I haven't really done a lot of research into it, but it's like, it really feels like we're at that point. It really does, where it's just like, how much better are things looking? How much more possible is it to make things look better? I mean, I just don't know. You know what I mean? It's just like, the screens already look so good. It's just amazing. I mean, it's amazing to think that. And with the, like, now we're starting to get into anti-reflective coatings with the new 17 Pro Max. We're getting into absurdly bright screens with the 17 Pro Max. I mean, what more do you need? And I could be wrong, but I just genuinely feel like we're hitting such a peak. And the Odyssey Arc does look pretty good. So I think maybe the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is because a lot of times I don't pump the brightness on it, and that's really where it shines as like a really bright, outrageous monitor. And I don't do that, so maybe I'm not really getting the most out of it, but I still think an OLED would look better. I think an OLED version of the Samsung Odyssey Arc would be great, although I'm assuming it is very costly and very risky, because even as is, the Odyssey Arc was a very costly and risky endeavor for Samsung to go down, route to go down. And yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know that we're going to see that. I would be very intrigued, but it would probably cost like $4,000 or something, and yeah, it's not worth it. But we're very close. We're very close. It's mainly because I want like a curved screen, and they don't do that, obviously, and they don't make like a curved thingy. So I don't know. I just don't know. I love the curve, and that's like a main thing. They don't really. I did know though LG made some recent pretty large ultra wides that were curved, and I think they were OLED. So I had known that came out like, wow, about not like almost a year ago, but not quite, maybe like 3/4 of a year. It's crazy to think about that. I was pretty excited about that too, but again, the monitor interest has kind of died down. I'm not overly interested in monitor stuff at the moment. You know, yeah, I don't know. And my setup would kind of have to be reworked a lot. But I'm curious to look into it. I'd have to look at some of the sizing and things like that to see. But I think a nice OLED would be a good companion to my Samsung Odyssey Arc. And like I said, maybe, like, I don't need 4K. I don't need it because I already have one 4K panel, the Odyssey Arc, which is plenty. You know, there's not even that much cases that I really take advantage of that anyway, other than just general, you know, UI and using the computer looks great, nice and crispy. But besides that, it's like I don't know. I don't need an additional 4K monitor. I think that's kind of like getting a little bit stupid. I think you just need one 4K monitor, and then that's it. I don't know why you would need multiple 4K displays, because yeah. I just don't know. Not really sure why that's necessary, but yeah, no, I mean, it'd be an interesting thing to look into, but again, I don't know that it's a major priority, and it may never be, because I'm just not that into screens, and I'd have to rework my setup a lot, and I even now, like, I'm feeling pretty lazy about doing that. So yeah, it's probably not going to happen, but I will probably research it just to kind of scope things out, because that seems like a pretty cool idea to me, to look into that and just see what's on the market. But again, I'd have to majorly rework my setup if I actually wanted to add an additional monitor. And I just don't like spending money on monitors, but it is an important component. I just want something that's like truly gorgeous. Like, the Odyssey Arc is good, but it's still the old screen tech. It's not like that, like, truly gorgeous OLED, you know. I mean, I think it can get like that in certain circumstances. I mean, it kind of looks good. I think if you're watching like a movie and it's just the whole thing, and you put the selective dimming on and stuff, it probably looks comparable to an OLED in that setting. But I'm like talking about just using it as a regular computer. There are definitely some inconsistencies. The local dimming just kind of looks odd, and yeah, it's not perfect, you know. It's not perfect for using it as a regular computer, whereas I know OLED is. It's just like perfection. So, like I said, even the Switch OLED, which I assume is not an expensive high-end OLED panel, it looks great. I just don't know how much it matters. Like, just having OLED is just, it's great. So definitely I'll see, but I'm at a point where it's just like, my setup is what it is. It may not be perfect, but I am trying to chase certain things. And like I said, to wrap it back around, because see, now I'm just talking about lust and getting into lust. That's not that's not really not really too relevant to what I was getting at. Is it? The whole point is there's two pretty distinct mindsets. You have the mindset that I shouldn't do any of this stuff, none of it matters, because it's just hedonism. It's raising the baseline, which is dangerous and risky, because what if something happens? Now it's like way more expensive for me to maintain the lifestyle that I have, because I'm used to the best technology and things like that. And then now if I had to replace it, if it breaks, if something happens, now it's a whole rigmarole, you know? And it's a costly thing to replace, whereas if you're used to cheap technology and something breaks, it's not that stressful. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, like whatever. I'll just buy a new $200 phone. But when it's like $1,000 phone, that's not so fun. You know, so there is like a stress component to the materialism, and that's kind of the argument, right? Is I don't know what's right for me in this life, because a part of me knows what the more responsible or the quote-unquote better decisions would be. It would be to not buy the 17 Pro Max, and it would be to, you know, just stop it with all this stuff. But the other side of me, I do think there's a genuine argument to be made that it's like the economy still works, society is still functioning. Now, it's not functioning well. There's a lot of people who I think are going to get wiped out, and I'm worried I could be one of them. So the economy's not functioning well. A lot of people are hurting and getting hurt more and getting damaged more and more. But that leads back to my point of, if I'm able to, shouldn't I just indulge? Like, while it's possible, I'm interfacing with this material realm. Doesn't that make sense to just get? Yeah, I mean, it's $1,000 phone. It's a lot of money, but it still will make my experience in life slightly better. And yeah, I mean, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I'm incarnate in this planet to just do nothing and to be a responsible stickler. Even though that's genuinely probably the correct thing, and I'm probably over-rationalizing a whole bunch of junk right now, but I think there's merit to it. I'm in the position that I'm in where I can afford it, and it's almost like, by not doing it, am I like just being too hard on myself for no reason? You know, it's a tricky conclusion, I think. And of course, you have to be mindful. Some people can't afford to eat, and then here I am, like, getting a new phone back to back. It's sick, honestly, you know. So there's a lot that can be said about it, I think. But I think my justification makes a ton of sense, that if I'm here, I'm incarnate here, I can afford it, I have the mental cognizance and the mental appreciation of it. I don't think it's that crazy. You know, I don't. I think it's fairly reasonable. But I think it requires a meditation on what is my purpose, why am I here? Because it seems like it's this tech stuff, it seems like it's this hardware stuff, but the truth is, I could easily be doing more humanitarian or more genuine good. than the elitism of tech, and possibly, the whole thing is I love tech, but tech causes most of the problems in people that I see or that I experience. Most of the behaviors that I don't like in people are a result of technology. So why do I like it as much as I do? Doesn't seem to add up. It doesn't seem to make too much sense. Sorry, just had a flurry of random thoughts. It happens to me for whatever reason. What else is there? Yeah, it's that trying to figure out where do I want to go moving forward, and what's next? Because it's going to be quite. Well, actually, it won't be a consequential. I don't think it'll be that consequential of a decision, but I think mentally it will be. Mentally speaking, whether I get the phone or not. Which I still feel like I'm probably gonna end up getting it, but there's I'm definitely raising some pretty critical points, Definitely raising some reasonable reasons, some logic is going into the mix. It's still insane to me, like, how people's brains work, like, just like pass me for no reason, then hit their brakes, and I guess they just don't see a problem with it. But it's such stupid. I mean, I guess it's their loss, but I just don't, like, I guess it's truly that abnormal that I just drive in like a chill way. I guess it's really just that crazy that I just drive chill. Right? Like, it's such a crazy concept. Nobody drives like me, and I just don't. And that's what I'm saying, like, where I've said before on here a lot about me feeling stressed and a lot of these things. It's possible that my stress and anxiety is still expressed better than a lot of people. Because I'm trying to figure out how... Because I don't feel like I have much peace in my life. I feel like uneasy about things. I feel anxious. But I think some people could have it worse, but in a different way. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. A lot of people probably are calmer than me, but I think it's mostly due to ignorance or neglect. Whereas, or it's just people who were given or who have better situations, a larger variety of social stimulation, maybe more stable situations, all things that if I had, I'm sure I would be pretty happy right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't have peace, but I've been working on that. And the salt's helping a lot. But I'm trying to be mindful of it, I guess. I'm trying to be mindful. And yeah, I mean, what else is there really? I'm trying to think of what. Yeah, no, it's weird because I just wonder. I don't think people are as vulnerable as I am, so it's very difficult for me to gauge other people and how happy or unhappy they are. You know, I'm very unsure of my ability to gauge like whether I'm happy or not, because I think I do such a good job of knowing what makes me happy and all these things and being able to articulate it and explain it. And I've talked to lots of people, but people just seem like awful at even knowing why they're sad or what's going on. And I haven't really engaged with a lot of people in that way and being able to rationalize emotion. So I think that just I don't really have a gauge on it, and it's possible that even, but you know, also a lot of it has to do with expectations. Like some people just don't have high expectations for themselves, and I guess if I didn't either, I would probably be super happy as well, which is something I'm trying to work on. You know, so I think a lot of things are relative in perspective, honestly. It seems that way. But again, I can't really say for sure because I still am under the impression that it's fairly difficult to figure a lot of these things out. Still under that impression. Like, I don't know how to gauge other people's happiness. I mean, for all I know, maybe I really am doing that much worse than everybody else. Right? Like, who knows? It's just an odd kind of situation, right? To try to figure people out, especially when I don't even know if I can really trust what I've been told. Okay, well, dude. Whoa. Yeah, because people aren't vulnerable. I don't think people are vulnerable. You know, people don't open up. And so it's difficult to gauge like what a lot of people are going through, but I think like a ton of people are anxious. So I'm anxious too about a lot of things that are like I think actually relevant to be anxious about. I mean, maybe some of my anxieties are more like subjective, but I think most of my anxieties are pretty like just the result of other people around me. Just the behavior is just ridiculous, and it's, you know, it's not stuff that is my fault per se, but it's my fault that I let it get to me, and so that's something I want to work on. The difference is, though, I don't necessarily think it's unhealthy the way I react to things. Like, I think it should be that way. I think it's actually very normal and reasonable to, you know, be disappointed when people let you down and you know, these things, especially because a lot of my expectations are just super normal and reasonable. And I just think people nowadays can't strike that. Like, they can't reach that point of just being, you know, kind, courteous, etiquette. So it's crazy. Like, I don't really know how else to describe it, because just what I felt and what I go through, it's really something. Like, but I think, again, like, the people who don't care and who don't let things get to them, I don't know that that's any better, because I think that there can still be a type of depression that is underlying, that maybe I don't have. Like, maybe I think I take that for granted sometimes. Like, my brain is a lot to deal with, but I'm dealing with it, especially recently. Like, I don't know, I'm coming to find out most people can't have these types of dialogues. So something is distinct about myself, in the sense of, and I probably still should have a therapist. I should have had a therapist. But again, there's something distinct about voluntarily talking to myself for 6 hours a week, when I could just listen to music and drown out all the noise and all the thoughts. I could just listen to a podcast, and I choose to show up here, even when now it's not even, I don't even think about it anymore, in terms of, like, I had so many expectations. I was hopeful that this would really, I don't think like that anymore. It's just like, it is whatever happens, and I just don't think about it. I just don't. And it's impressive, but nobody notices except for myself, and I guess that's really what matters, right? That there's something that I do that is fulfilling, and that was always my whole point. The whole point was, it was supposed to be something for the self, really. It wasn't for, it was for other people at first, but it's like something that I have for myself, because it's difficult to figure that out. So yeah, I mean, who would have thought, who would have guessed it, etc., etc. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm trying to process, one step at a time. If I buy the phone, great. If I don't, great. But moving forward, even past that, we do need to make more of a distinct decision about my life and what I want it to be and what it should be and all those things. Because that's really the root of it. Is it's this OCD. It's this obsessive disorder, probably, and I would be much richer without it. There's probably some kind of brain damage that's occurred, and I do think it genuinely just has to do with either I'm naive, or I was just way too caring to the wrong people, way too hurt. And too, I want to point out, like, a lot of people are hurt, but I don't really think they were hurt in the way I was. Like, I don't think they were. I think that, honestly, they're not, because a lot of these people can't really articulate it. I mean, they may explain that they're hurt, but it always seems vague. It's always like they were probably doing bad things too. And yeah, I mean, I just wonder, Whereas in my case, sure, I feel like I was hurt, but I can really articulate my feelings and my emotions, try to see where the other person was coming from, and still come to a pretty clear conclusion about things, being really reasonable. To me, it just seems like other people aren't reasonable. Like, even when I've heard people talk about situations they've had with other people, a lot of times I'm kind of thinking, like, that doesn't even sound reasonable. Like, I don't even know. I mean, I of course you learn not to say that, but it's like, that doesn't sound like, it sounds like you could have been doing something wrong in that situation or whatever, and it's like, I guess the problem is it's impossible to feel care directly. It's only shown through actions or words, and that can get lost in translation. It's been Schlaw, but now it's time to buy Schlaw. So, see ya, Schlaw.